Over the last week or so here in Moscow, we have been having major internet outages, blackouts as they are being called in the Western press. And thanks to the infinite wisdom of the YouTube algorithm, I have been regularly seeing English language YouTube videos about what's happening here in Russia, where the creators go around and walk around various parts of the city or sit in their apartment and attempt to show that everything's actually a-okay and that the internet is by and large working normally. But as is often the case with expat YouTube channels here in Russia, where they attempt to cover current events in the country while also, earning online internet points or whatever it is that they're trying to do, they typically leave out very pertinent information. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take us on a walk around the Boulevard ring, which actually starts over in that direction. And as we go, I'm going to fill you in on a lot of the additional information in terms of backstory with regards to this whole situation. We're going to talk about things like the whitelist. We're also going to talk about any little bits of legislation and anything that's just sort of tangentially related that will give you a more full, more comprehensive picture of what's going on with this situation to perhaps elucidate any questions which you may have. Now, I should note that there's one thing I do want to clarify before we get started, and we're actually starting right now today at Novokuznetskaya, which is where one of the videos by a channel, Moscow Uncut, Moskva Neobrezenaya, I guess is how we're going to translate that. Anyway, he focused a lot here, and in one of his videos, he was walking around showing how YouTube was working, which is kind of problematic in the first place. But I figured might as well start here. Even though this isn't technically the Boulevard ring, I gotta go that way to get there anyway. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to open up and see if some of these websites work. I'm actually gonna have to flip the camera around, so give me a minute to do that. But we're gonna talk specifically about which sites I'm opening a little bit later and why specifically those sites. But yes, this is also not going to be a uncut video, just simply because the Boulevard ring is very, very long and a lot of it is just going to be walking, and it's just, I'm out for a walk today, so I'm filming at the same time, so I'm not gonna make this a 2-hour video, so enough chatter, let me show you how the internet is working. Okay, so as we can see, TASS, which is kind of the main Russian news site, is kind of working, kind of not really. It says, you can see there, it says no internet connection. And TASS literally was just working a little bit ago, and it is not even working. Is it working? It's kind of working, it's kind of not working. So it's kind of loading, but also not very well. Like, all of the images are missing. So the text is loading, but yeah, the images, the video, not loading. If we search for something like, let's say, let's go in vitro. Yeah, nothing opens. We'll talk a little bit about what these sites are in a little bit. Now, I can also, let's hit up, what am I even looking for? Oh, yep, that's right. Bandcamp, not opening at all. So that's not working. But Yandex, I should put this back down. It's probably gonna be easier for me to do this anyway. As it is, Yandex. If we do my vibe, should work. A-okay. So, and this is like a randomized playlist. This is not mine. So, yeah, Yandex is working. I can skip to anywhere. The track continues to play. Obviously, you can't hear anything for various reasons, but. So, yeah, as you can see, most things are not working, with the exception of Yandex Music worked pretty well, and I guess TASS kind of worked. You could open a few things, but for the most part, nothing is working here. I'm not even going to talk about Telegram or WhatsApp or any messengers. Anything that you would need to turn on a VPN for, like YouTube, is just also not going to work. VPNs are not connecting now, but we'll talk about VPNs a little bit later with this whole situation. So I'm going to walk a little bit, and then I guess you'll be hearing from me again with a little bit of more information about this. All right, we're here now on, I guess what some people would probably call the end of the Boulevard ring. For those of you who do not know, a little geography right now with the street sweeper behind me. The Boulevard ring is one of 4 ring roads in Metro. It's kind of the first one. It is inside the center. It's the oldest one. Beyond that is the Garden Ring, the 3rd ring road, and then MKAD. Bulvarne Kolco, Sadove Kolco, TTK, and MKAD. It's the same. If you're not really great and you don't orient very well with Moscow geography, as I was crossing the bridge, you might have seen a very large old Stalinist skyscraper. You can see it right there. Boop. So yeah, this is where we are. Came up that way. So we are right now in the beginning of the Boulevard ring. So I figured that this would be a pretty good time to check the internet because, as I said, where we're going to be checking it out. Honestly, real quick aside, this is probably my favorite part, this kind of end of the Boulevard ring, just because it's typically, I mean, there's still cars, but it's kind of quiet and pretty nice. But all right, let's take a look. I'm going to put my phone down. Sorry for the weird angle right there. We'll go with that. Okay, so we've got a bunch of stuff already open, not the phone. Here is Vkontakte. And as you can see, we'll open an article. Wait, can I open an article on Vkontakte? Show more. So the text opens, images load. I can go all the way back. This is not, yeah. Right, so Vkontakte works fine. Even the video's loading there. I don't spend a lot of time on Vkontakte. This is not something that I have had pre-loaded. Izvestia, the website, not loading. Firstbread.ru, not loading. Google search, just straight up a Google search for in vitro, which is a medical clinic, does blood work, not loading. TAS, do we have anything new from STAS? Hasn't updated in a while, so I'm assuming that, again, we have no internet connection. So, a number of things still not working. Let's take a look. Get that reflection out of the way, though. I hate bending over. This is really awkward, but yep, I guess that's what we're gonna do. Everyone walking past me has to deal with my my bum sticking out in the way, but yeah, right. Music is working. I can even. So it's actually playing. So yeah, did I stop the music? Probably should stop the music. So yes, some things working. Bandcamp again. Technically a Western service, still not loading. The one I wanted to test too, Yandex Maps, kind of. We did come from Novokuznetskaya, we crossed the bridge. This seems to be the last time we pinged in at one of the towers, but we are currently right here at the beginning of Yauzsky Boulevard. So it does appear as though Yandex Maps aren't working either. Okay, so I am going to just walk a little bit and talk, and I will explain a little bit later why specifically those websites. Why not The Guardian? Why not The Independent? Like, there's a good reason for it. But I want to get back to that idea of expat schlock type videos. One aspect which multiple videos that I encountered shared was this sort of scoffing at the use of the term blackout, as they could still access parts of the internet. Now, there are two things that I need to bring up that make it seem like they're maybe not the brightest individuals or too lazy to do a bit of reading, or intentionally tweaking the information to fit a narrative they themselves or perhaps their audiences want to hear. So the first thing is that the word which was extensively used in the Russian press, and I'm going to put some examples of it up on the screen here, was the word отключение, which, and I'm going to put up a screen grab of a translation site I use, Multitran. I think it's a really good one. You should check it out if you are into translation stuff. But one of the translations for отключение, and I think the best one when we're talking about the internet, is blackout, in the same way that we would use it with electricity in that same way. So the use of the word blackout in the Western press, that's just them using the exact same language as the Russian press, even sort of more dubious journalistic rags such as Moskovsky Komsomolets, for example. In fact, sources like The Guardian or the Financial Times, which were kind of scoffed at or laughed at in some way, they ran stories on the blackout, but they also then, if you read the whole text, they featured additional explanatory information, which the expat culprits, the channels specifically, are Danny in Route, Moscow Uncut, and Englishman in Russia. They all failed to mention some sort of key pieces of information. Now, again, maybe reading or listening is not their strong suit, even in English, but if so, that's not really a great excuse. Now, before talking about something else that was problematic with those expat videos, I have to discuss the thing that they failed to mention, kind of an important piece of information, which is the whitelist. The whitelist, which is something that you could have read about in the Western press, if you actually read the articles. The whitelist is a list of government-approved apps and websites that should work even when the internet is not working. And this brings me to the sites that I have been trying to access. Some of them have been on the whitelist, such as Vkontakte, and some other ones which I'll go into more depth on the whitelist here in just a little bit. But some of them have not, such as small businesses like First Bread, which is Chlebная manufaktura номер 1 here in Moscow, or In Vitro, which is a medical clinic that does specifically blood work. What was the other one? Oh yeah, TASS and Izvestia, we'll get to those too. Those technically are on the whitelist. So the whitelist is supposed to work even when nothing else does, even when everything else has been blacked out. Okay, so we are at Чистые пруды right now, kind of in that direction. Back there is Pokrovka. I've done a number of filming snippets that one I actually did not have recording, and in another one, kind of an awkward interaction with somebody. So I'm just going to film it here where I'm by myself. I've been checking the websites. I've given up on Bandcamp entirely. That's just not opening. Yandex Music still is working good. Vkontakte still is working good. Izvestia still not opening. First Bread, Chlebная manufaktura, also not working. In Vitro still not working. TASS still working. So what was working before is still working, and what wasn't working still isn't working. So we're still limited to the exact same, still very limited number of apps. What was the other thing? Oh, maps. What is interesting is when I opened Yandex Maps this time, kind of quite a bit further up the way from where I did the last time, I had evidently pinged there. I had hit a GPS tower or some sort of signal. So I was on Yevsky Boulevard, but I had not come all the way up to where I was yet. So I'm willing to bet, I have this feeling that the next time I open Yandex Maps a little bit further down the road, I will be at this location and not where I am there. It's almost like I'm, Maps is updating with a pretty serious delay is what it feels like. But I need to explain how the whitelists work and what exactly they are. So let's get to that. Okay, so the way the whitelist works, the whitelist is a method of filtration and blocking out, according to the government, unwanted sites and apps. The filtration is done by the mobile networks. That's why it is only affected. That's why it's only affecting mobile internet here. And it uses deep packet inspection, which allows them to see which site or app the user is trying to access the internet through. If the site or the app is on the whitelist, then everything is good, everything works as normal. If it is not, then things just simply don't open. Apps might just show a black screen, or if you're trying to open a website, it might just say no internet connection. Now, the idea of a whitelist was actually put forth by the mobile network operators last year in response to the government blocking mobile internet regularly and en masse in lots of cities around the country, supposedly to protect from drone attacks, though the locations geographically didn't make much sense in some situations. And there are plenty of experts who argue that it doesn't really protect you from drone attacks, as drones can continue to fly without internet, without a GPS signal. It does make them less accurate, so more likely to perhaps miss their intended target, but regardless, the rationale from the government is connected to protecting from drone attacks. So the whitelist was invented so that mobile internet users would be able to still access the essential internet services, the sites or the apps that have been deemed most important. What's important to note is that the network still exists, right? When we have an internet blackout, as they've been saying, the internet still exists. The network still is there. It's just you cannot reach it. It is being heavily filtered. It's being blocked out. Now, as to understanding which sites and which apps are on the whitelist, there is a list, and I'm going to go through and kind of read it off right now, but we don't really understand the criteria for what gets on to the whitelist. There are rumors that some sort of presidential decree was signed off on last year in which it was outlined who gets to be on it. There is some connection to various levels of technology that have to be employed for the website to be, or the app to be employed, or to be included on the whitelist, but we don't really know how it works. So it's kind of a mystery. But let's talk a little bit about what exactly is on the list. Okay, this is not actually connected to the whitelist, but I do want to highlight the painted benches. This is exactly how you know spring is here. They do not clean them. They just paint directly over the top. And that is why the paint gets all flaky and crappy. And you can actually see there is some nice depth to the paint in a lot of these places. But that's how you can tell it's actually spring, is that they've started to paint over all of the sort of accumulated grime and filth. But we were talking about the whitelist. It's the 20th of March. It's the beginning of astronomical spring today, so that's kind of part of it too. Okay, so I do have a little bit of the whitelist here as well. Let's talk about what's on it. Okay, so we've got sites and apps for mobile operators and banks. Russian maps, Yandex Maps, I've been opening and checking that. It's been kind of working. Taxi services, Vkontakte, Odnoklassniki, which are Russian social networks. The Max Messenger, which is actually technically Mach, because of how it was registered under Russian legislation. I don't know. It's also technically a social media site. Food delivery, grocery apps, government-approved media. That's why I've been checking TASS, Izvestia. You can imagine that Moskovsky Komsomolets, Komsomolskaya Pravda, Argumenty and Fakty, those types of journalism sites are probably going to be working there too. Although, as you've seen, Izvestia does not open, and TASS works, but kind of with problems. Gosuslugi and other government services. Gosuslugi is kind of where like all of your documents have to go through. I have not been opening it and showing it to you because it's connected to my documents and everything here. So obviously, like, I'm not going to be highlighting that information, but I have opened it. I did open it around Novokuznetskaya, where we began, and it was working there. The big online marketplaces, Ozon, Wildberries, Yandex Market as well. I'm sure Sber Market is also working. Anything connected to Yandex is on the whitelist. Any question about that sound? I don't know if it picked up, but streaming platforms. So music streaming, that's why Yandex Music is working, and the Russian film and TV streaming services like EV, Oko, Kinopoisk, those should theoretically all work still. I guess I do have Kinopoisk on my phone, but I'm not opening it for, if not. Sites for booking train and plane tickets and hotel accommodations, so Astrovok, Tutu.ru, the RZD website theoretically should work as well. Mail.ru, Zen. Mail.ru is kind of, it's weird. It's kind of like Yahoo was back in the day, where you can check out the mail and then also get like some basic garbage news. Zen it's a long story. Gen's kind of garbage. And then more importantly, I think more than anything else, and I think one of the things that's been causing a lot of the problems recently is that one of the things that's supposed to be on the whitelist are the various things connected to payment systems and services that connect to the tax industries that allow small businesses to process payments. So if you're a small coffee shop, or say like a small to medium-sized business that sells anything, clothes, shoes, a small restaurant. A lot of times they have the terminals where you would just, place your card down and it would scan, and it's almost always done without a wired connection. It's all done over the mobile networks. It's actually been one of the great things about this city, and this is one of the major complaints that you hear again and again and again from Russians is that like this is kind of taking a step back in that regard. But yeah, theoretically, the white list should cover all of the basic aspects of everything that you would expect to be able to do and access in your daily life here in Moscow. The problem has been, so I don't want to glaze this idea too much because it is still ultimately internet restriction, right? I can't go to the website of Хлебная мануфактура номер 1, right? I can't go on their website and order bread or do whatever. I can't go on to Izvestia even now. And I think that's actually a really good example and kind of does a good job of encapsulating why people have been upset and why there's been a lot of noise and hysteria around this situation. That's mainly because the whitelist has not been working as it's supposed to. A lot of the things which are on the whitelist do work. Vkontakte, Yandex Music, TAS. Things that are on the whitelist, though, have not been working. And it's been kind of a big problem, especially for the small and medium-sized businesses that are using those mobile internet payments, and they can't do it. So it's been, if I remember correctly, in the center of Moscow here, there has been an issue where businesses, and I guess citywide, daily, due to the internet outages, the mobile internet outages, have been losing something around 1 billion rubles per day. So that is adding up, and that is what is causing a lot of the distress around this situation. I mean, among other things. Okay, so we're here now. Metro Чистые Пруды is over there. We've got the old Lukoil building right there, and then Ministerstvo Obrony. Mysnitskaya is over there. I made a video about it, 2 of them last year. Yeah, so we're a little bit further along on the Boulevard ring, right? That's where we are. And I figured it was time to check the phone. So let's take a look at what is working here. We've got TAS still working okay, updated at 3:37. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, we got the advertisements working, so everything's working good. They're still getting their money. So, okay. So TAS is working. Vkontakte. I want to... Got an American football thing there. That's working, so that's good. Let's check the maps. Where are we at on the maps? We are Avtozavodskaya. So the maps have kicked us down here when we are in fact all the way up here. So the maps have us down here. We're supposed to be up here. So the maps are not working, even though theoretically they're supposed to be. Granted, the GPS signals have been kind of hot garbage for a very long time now. And then Yandex Music, I don't even think I need to. Has it been playing this whole time? It has. Oh, okay. So Yandex Music works. I don't even really have to try it. I do. Give me just a second here. I don't want to go through my phone just like that. I think I have Kinopoisk. So if I do have Kinopoisk, I can maybe check and see if the streaming service is working, but I think maybe I don't. So, all right. So we're out of luck with that one. But yeah, the same apps are still working. At this point in time, I don't think I need to check Yandex Music or Vkontakte anymore. They've worked all of this way, even in areas where I've seen other people have had problems with basic apps. So that seems pretty good. But I mean, I'll do one last check, maybe 2 last checks a little bit further down, but it looks as though the whitelist is kind of how it is. But there are a few things that I do want to just clarify one last time with the whitelist, which is that, first of all, if anybody is interested in finding the full whitelist, I will put a link in the description below where it's, what's the word? It's a more comprehensive list. I kind of went over it, just gave you the basics, but if you actually want to see everything that's on the whitelist, I will put a link to a more comprehensive list. Put my phone away too. With regards to the whitelist though, just to summarize, the whitelists the white list is heavily filtered internet. It is blocked apps and sites. So the internet blackout that is happening here is not that the internet doesn't exist. The network is still there. The problem is the points of entry to the network, the points of entry to the internet are greatly, greatly limited. And that is ultimately the problem. So I did already state this a little bit before, but I do want to kind of reiterate it and go over it because I do think it's important. The reason for all of the hullabaloo, all of the noise around the internet blackout wasn't that there straight up wasn't any mobile internet anywhere in the city, but that the whitelist sites that were supposed to have been set up and tested and all of that stuff, blah, 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 they just didn't work properly in a lot of cases. As you've seen, Izvestia is not opening. Yandex Maps works, but kind of, well, не то, что через жопу, but, you know, kind of. People were buying paper maps when the Russian map services like Yandex Maps just weren't working properly. Businesses, as I said earlier, have had to close down sometimes for multiple days. It has led, again, to something like 1 billion rubles in lost profit for each day because the systems that process payments and log the tax documentation for every sale, the ones that were on the whitelist, they just haven't been working. So was the hysteria a bit overblown? Maybe a bit by the press. But then again, and I think this is important to note, you know, there are people who worry, likely, rightfully so, that the whitelist isn't a system that will be implemented only occasionally, but more and more frequently, perhaps becoming just all that is available on the internet, first on mobile and then on home connections. And then after all, the Russian government in the last month or so has made a pretty sharp about face when it comes to their position on Telegram, have begun actively making it more and more difficult to use, something that many people here aren't a big fan of. I'll throw an infographic up on the screen, but something like 90 million Telegram users are here in Russia, and I think the daily number, if my memory serves me correctly, you'll have to check the infographic, is something like 60 million people daily. That 90 million is, I believe, on the monthly level. And sure, there are people who have multiple accounts, but unless there just are massive, rampant Russian troll farms on Telegram, the vast majority of those accounts are used regularly by real people. So yeah, blocking that is obviously going to rub people the wrong way. And the government recently passed laws, 1 or 2, I don't remember exactly, that allow the FSB and other government agencies to turn off the internet at their discretion without having to go through any sort of thing. They just switch it off. They just give the signal and it's off. Add this on top of all of the things I just mentioned, the aggressive rollout of the Mach messenger/social network over the last half year, where people are often having their arms twisted, where they feel like they're being forced onto it in order to have access to medical appointments or log into Gosuslugi accounts or connect to their university's Wi-Fi, anything like that. All of these things together, with the restrictions here now in Moscow on the internet, it's kind of, you know, it all added together to create a bit of this hysteria, right? And I mean, obviously Moscow's a kind of one of those places that's typically able to avoid the unpleasantries that the rest of the country has to face. So, yeah. So was it unfounded? Was it kind of over the top? Maybe a little bit, but I don't think it exists completely in a vacuum. As I said just now, there are a lot of other factors that have been slowly building up, right? Drip by drip. The straw that broke the camel's back, the last drop, as it might be. Now, this isn't exactly that, but there are reasons why people reacted to the situation the way that they did. Okay, so I am a bit off the Boulevard ring right now. Behind me here, you can kind of see, is the Bolshoi Theater. And then obviously back that way would be Red Square and all that stuff. I just kind of had to get to the metro. It ended up getting to be a little bit later than I expected, so I'm going to have to cut off about half of the things I wanted to say. Now, granted, half of the things I wanted to say, the second half of it, are all connected to maybe stirring the pot a little bit with the some of the other English language Russian YouTubers. So I'll save that for another video. Maybe what I will do is begin my walk along the Boulevard Ring where I left off, which is at the intersection of the Boulevard Ring and Neglinная улица, which is closest to Metro Цветной Boulevard, and I can't remember what's the other one that's in that area because I never use it. But anyway, it was interesting because we went into Центральный рынок, which is the central market. It's not really a market, it's just an upscale food court. But the minute we went in there and I took out my phone, everything worked perfectly. Everything worked without a hitch. And I think it's worth checking out right here. We're in the very center of the city. And if we pull open, give me a second here. If we pull open Izvestia is working now. I can open it up. Things are working without any issue. If I go and I open, if I go and I open in vitro, which was the medical, well, that one's not working still. Okay, so I guess some of the things are working a little bit better in the center. Like I said, Izvestia is opening. I opened TAS just a second ago. I thought in vitro was working because I had reloaded it just before I started filming, but it looked like the whitelist works fully in this area. Now, I do know that when I was checking the websites, we were in what is known as the Basmani region of the city, and I have heard from other sources that the Basmani region, for whatever region, is just like a total black hole. It's a fairly large part of the city too, and it extends well out into the areas which are not even considered the center. There's another guy who actually did a video on that, Johnny Tickle. You could check that out if you're interested. He went to see how far it actually went. But yeah, what you've seen, or what you can hopefully gather from all of this, is that the internet outages, while it is limited to mobile internet and it is not 100% a complete blackout, it is still really spotty. And if you aren't using the pre-approved government sites and apps, then you're not really going to be able to use the internet much. As I was walking around this afternoon, I did notice that there were a lot less people on their phones than normal. Is that a good thing? Yeah, probably. Is the reason behind it a good thing? Probably not, I would say. Kind of one of those, like, if you want to find a silver lining in this cloud, then I would say that's probably it. But again, I don't know. It is what it is. It's also something I wanted to mention was the fact that this part of the city, the center, is the Cao, the Центральный административный округ, the central administrative region, district, whatever you want to call it. And 750,000 people live here. So 750,000 people is a lot for them to basically have their mobile internet just kind of out the window. And that's not including the realistically millions of people in and out of the center every day. So is it the end of the world situation that it may have seemed if you only read the press? Probably not. You know, people adapt to it, they move on with their lives. But is it also one of those things that should be easily kind of brushed off and ignored and scoffed at? Probably not either. It's one of those things where if people had reason to believe that this was going to be a very limited thing, then they could probably live with that. People don't necessarily have reason to believe that in 2026 here in Russia, and so for that reason, it is more of a big deal. But I've outlined all of this. I'm not going to go over it again. I do think maybe over the weekend I will do a little bit of some filming. I'll try to hit those complaints that I had with the other videos. Like I said, just stir the pot a little bit. Why not, right? It's YouTube. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna wrap it up there though. I do have to get on my way. I could not finish the walk, even though I really wanted to. You walk a little bit slower when you're filming, it turns out. I gotta plan for that in the future. But yeah, I'll leave you with kind of a view here of the center a little bit. It's a parking lot too, so you'll have to live with that. But yeah, I'll be back in the near future. But until then, everyone have a good evening, good afternoon, whatever the time of the day it is that you happen to be watching this. Take care of yourselves. And yeah, this has been Russia in Context. Thanks for watching.